8 months into her pregnancy with their first child, Laci Peterson was reported missing by her husband, Scott Peterson.
Christmas Eve, I got a call from Scott. Laci's missing. Have you talked to her today? What do you mean missing? Where could she possibly be?
He called and said the same thing to me, that she's missing. And I was like, what do you mean missing?
Scott called me to find out if Laci was at my house. And I said no, and he said, well, then she's missing. Missing? What do you mean missing? I mean, people don't use that term lightly.
Laci, where did you go?
Two, try your new Doritos, Cool Ranch. Cut, cut, cut.
On December 24th, 2002, Scott Peterson left to go fishing at the Berkeley Marina while Laci was preparing to mop the floor. She was also planning to take the family dog for a walk to a nearby park.
Hey, beautiful. I just left a message at home. 2:15. I live in Berkeley. I won't be able to get to Villa Farms to get that basket for Papa. I was hoping you would get this message and go on out there. I'll see you in a bit, sweetie. Love you. Bye.
When Scott returned from fishing, he found their dog in the backyard with its leash on, but Laci was nowhere to be found in the house.
When I got home, I started to call her friends, and they hadn't spoken to her. They didn't know where it was. And then as the hours progressed, it's like, oh my God, she's not somewhere that we know of. So it was anxiety and panic.
Laci Peterson, 8 months pregnant, vanishing while her husband was gone for the day on a fishing trip.
We hold hope, we keep praying, we keep passing out our flyers.
The police and the neighbors started to search for Laci all around, but couldn't find any specific evidence of her missing. With Scott being the last person to see Laci, detectives began to scrutinize him closely.
He was just calm. He was pleasant, he was polite. He didn't have the near panic that everybody else we met after that had.
He had a truck, and in the back, I noticed there was a big tarp, and in the tarp was a bunch of umbrellas. They're the kind that you have outside in your backyard. And then Scott, he's like, well, I went fishing in the bay, and here's my parking stub when he bought his ticket to launch his boat.
After searching the cars and the house, detectives focused on Scott's shop, which was filled with fertilizers he sold. Suspecting Scott might be involved in Laci's disappearance, they brought him in for questioning at the police station.
When Brocchini took a first walk through the house with the other officers, I don't think they knew that I was near them when one of them, said, oh yeah, we know what's going on here. It's the husband. And then he realized I was there and kind of turned around.
Oh, that was a morning decision. It's either go play golf at the club or go fishing.
Okay. So what you're telling me, Scott, is you have no idea where this.
Petey's questions were not questions, they were accusations. He had made up his mind before he even arrived at our home.
You guys have any problems, marriage problems?
The detective asked Scott to take a polygraph test, and he agreed to do it the next day. However, when the day came, he refused, raising a red flag for the detectives.
He dodges that. For example, Christmas Day, Scott had talked to his father, and his father had advised him against taking the polygraph. So he refused the polygraph, even though he said the evening before that he would take it.
The detectives then began knocking on doors and following up on tips from others. Karen Service, Scott Peterson's next-door neighbor, mentioned that she saw their dog running around outside the gate with its leash on at 10:18 a.m. on December 24th.
When you found the dog, I believe the leash was still attached.
Correct, it was.
Meaning that most likely Laci had gone by that point.
Yeah, that would probably be the case.
She was a great witness and provided information for us that took us to a place where we could eliminate other people from having abducted her. The only one person that would not cooperate all the way and help us exclude himself was Scott.
I was unwilling for the first few weeks to go in front of a camera and give them the terrible emotions I was feeling.
Things were getting worse for Scott Peterson as more people began to view him as a suspect, all while the search for Laci continued. Speculation swirled. Was she abducted from the house? Did she have a secret boyfriend? Yet, despite a thorough investigation, no solid clues emerged. All they could do was keep putting up posters, hoping for a breakthrough.
It's such a strange reality to realize that you're literally putting up a missing persons poster for your best friend. We walked streets and put up posters for miles and miles. And Scott was right there with us, but he would joke. And he would laugh. And part of you at the time welcomes the distraction. Like you get to the point where your body is ill because you're so distraught.
Scott Peterson remained distant and reserved, showing little interest in engaging with the media to help spread the word about his missing wife.
Early on, we rang the doorbell and Scott answers the door and he wants nothing to do with us. I mean, he gave us a flyer and he said, no cameras, no cameras. Told my photographer, put the camera down. He wanted nothing to do with the media, which is the best way to get the word out. Everyone else was doing interviews. Everybody else wanted constant coverage, not Scott.
Neighbors and friends were shocked to learn that Scott had a boat. He claimed it was meant to be a surprise for Laci's stepfather, Ron.
And I asked him to tell me what happened Christmas Eve morning. And he didn't have a lot to say about that. When I asked him about the boat, I said, why didn't you mention that before? And he said, oh, well, I was keeping it a surprise for Ron. I said, why were you thinking you were surprised Ron? It's not his boat, it's your boat. No answer to that either. I said, why don't you take a polygraph test? And then everybody will know you're okay, you know, that you didn't do this. He said, well, I'm too upset to take that. And that was it.
When investigators searched the boat Scott used that day for fishing, they discovered cement powder rings and residue. It looked like someone had tried to make several concrete anchors. Only one anchor was found on the boat, but the amount of powder suggested he might have made 5. The question remained, where were the other 4? Investigators also found needle-nose pliers at the bottom of the aluminum boat, with hair tangled around them. How did that hair get caught in the pliers? The circumstantial evidence was piling up, painting an increasingly disturbing picture. On December 30th, the 6th day of searching for Laci, investigators received a shocking phone call from Amber Frey. She revealed that she had been dating Scott Peterson.
I was called a mistress, but that was so absolutely far from what I was.
So what do you want to be together with me? I should care for you. I think we care for each other.
That's just, wow. That really surprised me. There was no indication there were trouble in the marriage or anything like that. And we had no indication that there was another side to Scott.
This revelation uncovered a side of Scott that no one had known about. Investigators immediately rushed to Amber's house to learn more.
Scott and I started talking on the phone. I thought he was handsome. He had a really nice smile. He seemed like he had a good head on his shoulders. He was interested in my life and my daughter, and he was very sweet with her. Our time together it just flowed. Like, we laughed a lot. We had some good conversations. I asked if he had ever been married. He said no.
Amber told investigators that Scott called her daily. She initially learned about his marriage from a friend, which shocked her, and her suspicions were confirmed when Scott admitted it. Investigators then provided her with a device to record all future calls from him. As soon as the device was plugged in, Scott called.
You know how I tell you how special you are and you're unique and everything? Mm-hmm. You know how much I mean that, right? Yes. You know how true that is, how wonderful you are.
We continued to monitor the phone calls that she was having with Scott until it got to the point where it really didn't look like we were getting much more. So we thought we'd turn up the heat a little bit on that and have her be a little bit more confrontational on her calls.
You came and told me this elaborate lie about her missing and this tragedy, and that this will be the first holidays without her?
Scott had told her in December, the same day that he bought the boat, that he had actually lost his wife and this was going to be his first Christmas without her.
Amber.
Yes.
I never said tragedy or missing.
Oh, yes, you said you lost your wife.
I said that I lost my wife.
Yes, you did.
I did, and yes.
How did you lose her then, before she was lost? Explain that.
There are different kinds of loss, Amber.
Of course you couldn't tell me the story about your wife because it hadn't happened yet.
You think I had something to do with her disappearance? I am not evil like that.
I would hope not.
I am, oh my God.
You lied to me now? You know how many people I've given your picture to?
Amber Frey became the most important witness in the case, revealing the dark side of Scott Peterson that no one knew about. On the same day he bought the boat, December 9th, he told Amber that he had already lost his wife.
Amber.
Yes.
I never said tragedy or missing.
Oh, yes, you said you lost your wife.
I said that I lost my wife.
Yes, you did.
With that call, Scott's intentions became clear. He wanted to escape his current life and had no desire to become a father.
That's so offensive and so disgusting. I just don't get that argument, and it's just absolutely not true.
He buys his fishing license beforehand. He buys his boat beforehand. It's starting to look premeditated to me.
From an investigator standpoint, Scott Peterson looking up tides in the San Francisco Bay means, where should I dump my dead wife after I kill her?
Then you start thinking in terms of, well, how do you actually kill her? The physical evidence and the circumstantial evidence indicated that Scott likely killed her that morning. Wrapped her, dragged her through the house, loaded her in the truck, covered her with the patio umbrellas, drove to the warehouse, drove up to Berkeley Marina, dumped her in the water. She was weighted with the homemade concrete anchors, made the staged call to Laci's cell phone.
Hey, beautiful. I just left a message at home. 2:15. I live in Berkeley. I won't be able to get to Villa Farms to get that basket for Papa. I was hoping you would get this message and go on out there. I'll see you in a bit, sweetie. Love you. Bye.
Came back, washed his clothes, ate some pizza, drank some milk, took a shower, called Sharon. Where's Laci?
How can I help you?
Yes, my son-in-law called. He went playing golf this morning at 9:30. My daughter's been missing since this morning. She's 8 months pregnant. She took her dog for a walk in the park. The dog came home with just a leash on.
So the dog came back without your daughter?
And so this is kind of the theory that we put together as far as what actually happened. You're trying to find logic in Scott killing his wife. Well, the only logic I can see is twisted logic. The fact that he didn't want to be a dad, didn't want to pay child support, didn't want to pay spousal, and this is the way he thought about getting out of it.
The case took a new turn when investigators learned about a burglary that occurred at a house across the street from the Peterson residence on the same day Laci disappeared. The home belonged to the Medina family, who were out of town at the time.
There was people that were talking about maybe she was abducted by the burglars, and then people were calling in about a van in the neighborhood that some people had seen, some people hadn't. There was one neighbor that saw it. Originally, she said it was white, then it became tan, then it became brown as her statement continued. Totally ruins her credibility.
Modesto police arrested 2 suspects, Stephen Todd and Donald Pierce. The 2 quickly agreed to take a polygraph test, eager to prove that they were not involved in Laci's disappearance.
The burglars are like, whoa, we burgled the house. We did not kidnap this lady. We believe we were there the 27th. The problem with that is they couldn't have done it on the 27th because the Medinas were home on the 27th.
After further investigation, the police confirmed that the burglars were not involved in Laci's disappearance.
At this point, there is no connection. There's no leads that indicate that they were involved in the missing of Laci.
Todd and Pierce, 2 that we know burgled the house across the street. We don't know who else was in that burglary. We know there were others.
Stephen Todd says that the burglary was on the 26th.
But that's according to the burglar. He changed it. He picked, oh, it happened on December 27th. Oh, no, it was to the 26th. So it wasn't very reliable, that's for sure.
We solved that burglary, found out that it in fact occurred on the 26th.
There was just no desire to pursue what the evidence was telling them. I mean, it was the evidence that they just decided to ignore and go with theory.
On January 5th, 2003, police resumed their search around the Berkeley Marina, using sonar, helicopters, and numerous boats to scour the waters. During the search, they discovered something unsettling. 2 anchors resembling the one Scott had made, but Laci was still missing.
Hi, Scott. This is Mom. It's about 1:45. Just wanted to know, I just got a call from Ron Cloward. He's at Marina, and it was a boat anchor. Of course, we knew it wasn't Laci, but I just wanted you to know. I'm going to call your house in case you don't get this message first. Bye.
He hears the message, and then he goes, whew, whistles, just like that. Like, whew, what a relief. I mean, you know?
Amber Frey appeared before the media and confirmed her relationship with Scott, which led Laci's family to withdraw their support for him, believing something was wrong.
Since Scott is no longer communicating with anyone in Laci's family, and because we have so many questions that he has not answered, I am no longer supporting him. I would also like to ask Scott to fully cooperate with the Modesto Police Department. Thank you.
Then Scott decided to appear on different news media, still claiming his innocence.
Told the police immediately.
When?
That was the first night we were together. The police, I spent with the police.
You told them about her?
Yeah, from December 24th on.
Did your wife find out about it?
I told my wife.
There wasn't a lot of anger?
No.
Do you really expect people to believe that an 8.5-month pregnant woman learns her husband has had an affair and is saintly and casual about it? Accommodating? Makes a peace with it?
Well, you don't know. No one knows our relationship but us.
Scott realized that he made some mistake, so he for the first time requested another TV interview.
Yeah, this is a short newscast, and I don't know how much of these words you're going to use or not. I'm not going to waste that by defending myself or talking about irrelevant things. It's better served if we talk about what happened and where's Laci.
Meanwhile, investigators continued their search for Laci's body for months. On April 14th, 2003, they made a significant discovery along the shoreline of Point Isabel.
The female adult body was discovered late this morning by a woman walking the shoreline at Point Isabel in the city of Richmond.
The body discovered was severely decomposed. It had a strip of duct tape across the front of the torso. Alongside the body was a dead baby, leading investigators to believe that it was Laci and her unborn child.
I saw it on the news, and I immediately called the detective, and I said, "Is it her?" And he says, "I can't say." He said, "But," and I said, "Okay."
The case shifted from a missing persons investigation to a murder investigation. The body was sent for forensic testing to confirm it was Laci's. Once the identification was confirmed, authorities obtained an arrest warrant for Scott Peterson. With a wiretap on Scott's phone, investigators were able to listen to and record all his calls and track his location. Early one morning, as Scott set out on a trip, a convoy of police cars began to follow him. Completely unaware that he was being tracked by law enforcement, Scott assumed the cars were media vehicles.
And he is driving worse than any drug dealer I've ever followed. I mean, it's getting dangerous. He is driving so bad that the helicopter even lost him. But we could keep finding him by his phone.
Where you at? I'm on Genesee, so I don't think I should come play golf. Oh, gosh. Oh, brother.
And we knew, he knew he was being followed because we could hear him on the phone, but he thought we were the media.
These guys, they know I'm on to them. I stopped on the highway and they, stopped behind me. I think I better skip it because I don't think I want to picture me in the press playing golf.
Finally, we got to the point where this is dangerous. So we decided we have to arrest him.
When they arrested him, investigators were shocked by Scott's changed appearance. He had dyed his hair orange. Police bring him back to Modesto.
Now we can move forward. Now justice can be done.
Soon after Laci went missing, I made a promise to her that if she's been harmed, we will seek justice for her and Connor and make sure that that person responsible for their deaths will be punished.
We're outside the gate of the Stanislaus County Jail. This is where Scott Peterson will be held until his arraignment. Look at this. All the people who have gathered to catch a glimpse of Peterson as he was driven here from San Diego by detectives.
Scott's family hired a high-profile attorney named Mark Garagos to represent him in the case.
We're happy that Mark is in place as Scott's attorney, and we do look forward to proving his innocence.
The case began and all the evidence was provided to the judge, including the calls with Amber Frey.
In my mind, we could be wonderful together. I could care for you in every way. For the rest of our lives, I think we'd care for each other.
Then, the jury rendered their decision.
State of California versus Scott Peterson. We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Scott Lee Peterson, guilty of the crime of murder of Laci Denise Peterson. We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Scott Lee Peterson, guilty of the crime of murder.
When the clerk read the verdict, I just remember thinking that I just missed the word not. She must have just said not guilty. I missed it.
Our family's going to make it. We're stronger because of this. And Scott got what he deserved.
A huge crowd gathered outside the courthouse, cheering as the verdict was announced.
I was still expecting to go home that day. It was just like this horrible physical reaction that I had. Everything just went kind of silent. I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't feel my feet on the floor. I couldn't feel the chair I was sitting in. My vision was even a little blurry. And I just had this weird sensation that I was falling forward. I was staggered by it. I had no idea what was coming.
December 13th, 2004. People of the State of California versus Scott Peterson. We, the jury, fixed the penalty at death.
As of now, Scott Peterson continues to maintain his innocence. This is not the first time a husband has killed his wife. Watch a case where a man married 6 women and killed 4 of them for insurance money. Make sure to subscribe for similar documentaries.